Hey everybody, it is Micah again, back with more Second Coil of Bahamut in 2020. And I want to say I'm sorry for the delay in this video. We had some construction going on here at my house, and it was a little difficult to get any voice recording done with the sawing and the hammering and the yada yada yada. But all that's over, the construction is done, and here I am. And I'm also not going to get into all that miscellaneous information that I covered at the beginning of the first one. If you need a recap, you can just simply go back and watch it. But I do have one brief heads up I want to give you before I begin. Here in the second turn of the coil, you're definitely going to notice a little uptick in difficulty compared to that first set, but they're still completely doable at level 80, so don't worry too much about it. And if you do need some help, find yourself a buddy. 2 people together should be able to clear this. I mean, they should just be able to annihilate this with ease. So don't worry too much about it. Find yourself a friend, put something in Party Finder, and you should be absolutely fine. Anyway, that being said, let's get into this starting at turn 6. So after a short run through some minor fodder, you're going to find the first boss, a giant Rafflesia, ever so creatively named Rafflesia. This big plant is likely the easiest boss you're going to encounter in this entire second set of coil, and she can be burned down fairly quick. In fact, I'm going to sum up this entire fight for you really quick here. Ignore everything, hold her in the middle, and burn her down. None of her attacks pose any threat. And that includes her abilities that used to have mechanics attached to them, like Bloody Crest that will give you a physical vulnerability debuff. That includes the dark matter bulbs that will spawn and create large briar patches that will do damage over time if you stand in them. And that also includes her once most powerful ability, Blighted Bouquet, which used to cause instant death to absolutely anyone who didn't handle it just right. I mean, honestly, you probably wouldn't even notice Blighted Bouquet these days if it wasn't for the sparkly animation. If you're with a friend, you may also be tethered together at some point with thorny vines. But again, this should be something you can ignore. If it does start to become a problem and you do start taking too much damage, you and your friend can simply run away from each other, and this will break the vine. There's pretty much nothing to fear in this fight, like I said, so you can just really focus on that damage, get your rewards, get your cutscenes, and move on to the next turn. And the next turn will begin by putting you on a very large and very fancy elevator that's going to whisk you through the elegant compound as it throws little minor enemies at you. This is actually one of my more favorite fodder experiences on Coil, just because of the way the elevator moves and, the animations and the graphics, and, it's just so much more fun than up and down and plain walls. And yeah. Anyway, when you finally come to the boss, you're going to be face to face with a Lamea named Melusine. So this fight's going to be a little different depending on whether you're solo or if you brought a friend. And that difference all lies in one ability, Cursed Voice. When Melusine casts Cursed Voice, she's going to put a debuff on you, and that debuff is going to be designated by this little triangular symbol. After a short countdown, that debuff is going to activate, and it's going to petrify anybody in a cone directly in front of you. So you have to be sure you're not facing your friend at this time, otherwise you're going to petrify them. If you're running this solo, this isn't too much of anything to worry about. However, if you do hit Melusine or any of the ads with it, it is going to place a damage buff on them. However, I hit Melusine with every single Cursed Voice when I was doing these recordings, and I never even noticed an uptick in damage, so it is probably inconsequential. And while all this is going on, golems are also going to appear, called Renauds. Now, these Renauds used to be used for a different mechanic that you're probably not going to see anymore, because you're just going to burn Melusine down before she's able to cast it. So just kill the Renauds just like you would any other ad. Outside of Cursed Voice, there's only a few abilities that you're going to see Melusine use. She has a variety of cleaves, including Tail Slap, Red Lotus Blade, and Circle Blade, and she also has a ranged AoE called Circle of Flame that can hit anyone, anywhere in the arena. But none of these abilities are really anything to worry about. When Melusine reaches 80%, she's going to start spawning ads, and she has 2 ad phases, both dependent on her HP. So it's likely that you're going to be burning her down so quickly that all the ads are going to spawn at the same time, meaning you may have 7, 8, or even 9 ads appear at the same time on your screen. And when they do, you have 2 choices. You can either burn her down, or you can switch to AoEs and take out all the adds at the same time as the boss. It's really all up to you and what you think you can handle. And while all of this is going on, sections of the arena are also going to start lighting up with this eerie purplish glow, and that glow is eventually going to explode, doing minor damage. However, you can avoid this damage by simply following the golden rule. Don't stand in the yuck. Finally, the last thing you may see is petrifaction, and when Melusine starts to cast this ability, a giant red eye is going to appear over her. And this eye is of course the universal symbol of Final Fantasy XIV, to turn away. So as long as you're not facing her when she finishes the cast, this is not going to affect you. And with that, Melusine will be down, and you can move on to the next turn, which is going to place you in a maze of sorts that leads to the boss. This maze can also be frustrating if you don't know it, because it's going to throw you up and down and push you around. It's going to be just annoying, but it's very simple, and I'm going to tell you the trick. All you have to do is you have to run down to the end of the first corridor, the corridor that you spawn in. Just run to the other side, activate the arrow, and jump up. And then when you get up top, kill the adds and open the door that's in front of you. That's it. And that will bring you face to face with the next boss, the Avatar. Now, like the theme of Coil so far, the Avatar has very little to worry about, as most of his abilities are just completely ignorable. There is one thing you have to watch out for, because if you don't handle this mechanic correctly, it's definitely going to wipe you. And if you are running this with a friend, only one of you has to handle this mechanic, so make that decision before you start the fight. The Avatar is also stationary. He's not going to move away from the center, but since he can hit you regardless of where you stand, you're going to want to stay just a little bit close to him so you don't accidentally mess up the wipe mechanic. Outside of auto attack, there's going to be a few abilities that the Avatar is going to use, including Homing Missile, which is a standard AoE, Gaseous Bomb, which will split damage between everyone it hits, and Diffusion Ray, which also will give you a bleed effect. Diffusion Ray has no warning. Homing Missile you'll see coming, as it will hit anybody who gets tethered to the boss, and the last one, Gaseous Bomb, will hit anybody who's marked with a beam of light from above. Like I said, all of these are pretty ignorable. They're nothing to worry about. It's the towers you need to watch out for. If you mishandle the towers, you will wipe. On the bright side, the towers are very easy to deal with, and you're likely only going to see one set. So let's focus on them. Shortly into the fight, you're going to see two towers appear, one on the north side and one on the west side of the arena. These two towers are slowly going to charge, and you're going to see how charged they are by the green and red rings that are going up the central shaft. You want to be sure the towers do not charge up at the same time. If they do, every time they charge, the Avatar is going to get an attack and defense boost. And once they reach full charge, that defense boost is going to be so high that the Avatar is just going to slap ya and kill ya. So to avoid this, you need to step into the small semicircle that's lit up directly in front of the towers. This is going to give that tower an extra charge up and put a defense debuff on you that will cause you to take more damage from the towers. The Avatar's damage will stay the same. However, that debuff also means you can only give the towers one extra charge. A second charge will drop your health into the danger zone. I always give that extra charge to the west tower, since the north tower will spawn a dreadnought when it finishes. The west tower will explode, but it's nothing you shouldn't be able to handle. So, outside of being sure you only get one debuff and unsinking the towers, you can solely focus on DPSing the Avatar down, and you should be able to defeat him before you see any other mechanics. And that means you can move on to the final boss of the Second Coil of Bahamut, Neil Van Darnus. Neil's going to be the toughest challenge that you've faced yet, and this fight really relies on how much damage you can output, because burning her down as quickly as possible is the key to success here. You want to push her through her phases as fast as you can and take her down before you get to the fire and ice phase. Therefore, this is the first turn where you may just need a buddy to complete it. So what I'm going to do to make this a little less confusing, since there are a lot of mechanics to deal with, is I'm going to walk you through this fight solo, and then I'm going to walk you through the differences for a party of two. I should also mention that just like Twintania, if you step outside of the border of the arena at any time, it's instant death. And that of course will rear its ugly head later on. When you first enter this fight, you're going to want to start DPSing her hard right away because you want to push her into her second phase as soon as possible. Now if you can't do this, if you start seeing mechanics, then you're not able to solo this fight. So you're going to know ahead of time. But honestly, pushing her into the second phase should be relatively easy. When she enters phase 2, she's going to disappear into the air and come back down, surrounding herself with a big Delamod shaped sphere. And a greenish yellow marker is going to appear above your head. And you can basically just stand anywhere for this, because after the marker disappears, 3 meteors are going to drop. One where you were standing, and then 2 others in just random areas. These meteors will spawn 3 golems called Delamod spawn. Now you want to make sure you kill 2 of these as soon as you possibly can before you really even bother with the third. If you can kill them all at the same time, that's great, but you want to make sure you at least get 2 down. If any of these adds get too close to one another, they're going to merge into one large golem, and that one large golem will wipe the floor with you. Once these 3 golems are down, you want to move to the outside of that inner circle, and you're going to want to wait for the next set of markers to appear. Now, 2 markers are going to alternate over your head, a red arrow and a yellow meteor. The red marker is going to drop a red meteor, and the yellow marker is going to drop a yellow meteor. If 2 meteors of different colors are too close to one another, they will explode, doing unavoidable damage. If you're on a job with heals like Paladin or Red Mage or any healer job of course, you can just stand in place and heal your way through the explosions. If not, you're going to want to run around the outside of that inner circle so the meteors land far enough apart not to explode. After this meteor phase, you're going to be again marked with that greenish yellow golem marker. Now if you did not heal through the last round of the meteors and they're on the ground, you're going to want to stand between the first and the last one to fall and pray to RNGesus. When the 3 golem meteors fall, they can cause some of the other meteors to explode if they land too close, so the damage you're going to take here is going to vary. But just like the last set of golems, you want to take out 2 of them immediately. But this time you're going to want to let that third one live because you can use it to your advantage. Move yourself over to one of the red or yellow boulders, doesn't matter which, and when the golem gets close to it, he's going to tether himself to that meteor and absorb it. Then you take it to a second one and he's going to do the same thing. Then you take it to a third one, but here you need to kill that golem the moment he begins to absorb it. If you do, you're going to have 3 less meteors to deal with later. If he's able to fully absorb that third one, however, it's a wipe. Now it's a waiting game because Neil's going to start to ready Mega Flare. When the cast is complete, Mega Flare is going to do just a small amount of damage. But the real danger here is that any meteor left over is going to explode, and these meteors can easily do over 20,000 points of damage per meteor. The arena is going to transform into the Broken Runes of Cartno, and Neil's going to come down on your head doing a small amount of damage with Delamod Dive, and then she's immediately going to start casting Heaven's Fall. Now here, as soon as you're able to target her, you need to start DPSing her as hard as you possibly can, while at the same time positioning yourself just outside the center of the arena. You want to push her into her final phase before she finishes this cast, and to do that, you need to get her under 47% health. After Neil finishes casting Heaven's Fall, one of Delamod's needles is going to land in the center of the arena. If you're directly underneath it, it's going to crush you, and if you're too far away from where it lands, you're going to be pushed into that outside wall, so you need to find that sweet spot or just be killed by the impact. The needle is then going to start pushing its way into the ground, doing area damage. Just stay out of the yellow shimmering areas to avoid this. Again, it's the golden rule of don't stand in the yuck. Neil is now going to cast Bahamut's Favor, which will significantly raise her outgoing damage, and she's immediately going to hit you with 5 swipes of Bahamut's Claw, which is going to do some pretty hefty damage, but you shouldn't really have to worry about it unless you were hit with too many meteors in the previous phase. But regardless of what she's doing, you need to focus on DPSing her down and taking her out. There's absolutely no time for heals, there's no time for pauses, there's no time for anything. DPS her as hard as you can. It's easy to miss with everything going on, but as you're taking damage from Bahamut's claw, 3 dragons will have appeared on the outside of the arena. One is going to hit you with ice attacks, and one is going to hit you with fire attacks, and if you get hit by 2 attacks of the same element back to back, you're gonna wipe. And as the ice dragon can get out multiple attacks before the fire dragon can get out one, this is going to be unavoidable. So this is why you need to burn Neil down, because you need to take her out before this can happen. Now, if you brought in 2 people to this fight, the battle's going to change, but only slightly, and all the above tactics are still going to work. The only real difference is in the meteors. When it comes to the golem meteors, you just want to keep them far enough apart that they're not going to instantly merge. Standing on the center dot of the 3 circles is far enough, so they don't need a lot of room. When it comes to the red and yellow meteors, if there's 2 of you, one player is always going to be marked with the red marker, and one player is always going to be marked with the yellow marker. So if there's no healer to just heal you through, one person can run around the inner circle, and one person can run around the edge so you properly space them. You can also each take a golem and use it to absorb 3 meteors each. The one big difference that 2 players are going to make is that it's very, very easy to push her through her phases, and you're going to be able to take her out with a lot of time to spare, even if that second person you're with does the bare minimum. Just the damage is going to be enough that she'll just go right down. But with that, you've completed the second coil of Bahamut. Congratulations! We have one more round of coil to go before I take you into the extreme primals of A Realm Reborn, and since our construction is complete, it shouldn't take me long to get those videos out. I will also be doing the patch recaps, so if you forgot what happened in the Boja incident, that will be out before 5.35. But in the meantime, if there's anything else you want to see or anything in particular you want me to cover, I'm always open to suggestions. If this video was helpful, I hope you drop me a like and subscribe for more, and you can always follow me on Twitter, which is linked below. And as always, it's been a hoot. Until next time, have fun.